Welcome to the Higher Love with Megan podcast with me, your host, Megan Cooper, a trauma-informed therapist, life coach and disruptor of wellness norms based in Brighton, UK. This isn't another nice-to-have wellness podcast. Instead, this podcast seeks to redefine what it means to be well in today's world. Here, we challenge the status quo, seek to reunite wellness with social justice and improve accessibility, diversity and inclusivity within wellness and beyond. As a listener, you are not here to passively consume. Instead, you are an ambassador for real, embodied, societal and systemic change in the world. As your host, I stand for radical self-inquiry and being able to have those confronting but necessary conversations so that we can remember our collective humanity at this time. We're here for the revolution and you've got a front row seat. I am really excited to be having this conversation this morning with you both. I was thinking about it this morning and was thinking I really feel like I have won the lottery. Being able to sit and have an hour's conversation with you today feels really wonderful. So thank you to you both for being here this morning, Antoine and Yasmine. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Just to begin us today, it would obviously be amiss for us not to mention that we are recording this, in fact, on the morning of October 7th, which has become a very significant date over the last couple of years. And Antoine, maybe I could pass over to you to just, say what you think would be appropriate today.
First thing, all my life, I never believed in anniversaries, that they happen in a yearly fashion. I think every day is an anniversary in our life, whether it's birthday, whether it's tragedy, whether it's marriage, whether it's every day. And in the case of this genocide, it's been 730 days. It isn't 2 years. It's every day that has been going on like that. And it's been also 28,000 days since 1948, because I believe this genocide has been an incremental process since 1948, if not before that. The politics were happening before that, but my tragedy was in 1948, April 1948. 28,000 days, every day of that, we have been waiting for a resolution of our problem. Since 48, there were about 1.3 million people who were driven out to become the 2.3 million in Gaza. So let's not isolate Gaza from historic Palestine. Those are the anniversaries I'm talking about. The people in Gaza were the people of Palestine. They just moved into Gaza in 48. As of today, Israel has dropped 70 times more bombs on Gaza in the last 2 years than the Allied dropped on Germany. And more than 100 times of bombs were dropped than the US dropped on Vietnam. Israel has killed, of course, more than 66,000 innocent civilians, not combatants. They haven't said how many combatants they have killed. Innocent civilians. Of those, 19,500 children. Injured 176,500 people, many of them with life-changing injuries, amputees and so forth. All of the above represents really for me a deliberate attempt to eradicate a people. 500,000 people today in Gaza are living in a starvation, as confirmed by many agencies around the world. 12,000 students were killed. 970 teachers were killed. 278 journalists were killed. More than any in World War I, World War II, Yugoslavia, Afghanistan put together. This is not a war for me. This is a Zionist, particularly a Zionist genocide against our people. So as we live this day, we must remember these figures. And they are not only figures, really. They are people behind those figures. And that's how we should remember Gaza. And it is going on. It's not stopping. It hasn't stopped even with the plan of Trump. It's still going on. And what really bugs me is that it has been going on for a long time, and it took babies and mothers to die to wake us up.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. When you hear it all in one go, it's just unfathomable, the amount of loss that we have witnessed through our screens over the last 2 years. And that is not even taking into account the decades before that. Yasmine, was there anything that you wanted to add to what your dad just shared?
I think as we just spoke earlier, you and I, and within our friendship group, we were all feeling this constant heaviness about the situation it's just so unbelievable that we're here 2 years later in the same position. It is still getting worse. The genocide is getting worse every week. And I know we talk about this a lot at the end of the week when we reflect on what has happened in Gaza over the previous week. We say, we just didn't think it could get any worse. And then it gets worse. And I've spoken to many people across all the charities for Palestine, and they're all saying the same thing. But of course, as my dad just said, with all those statistics, that's over a 2-year period, Megan. It's a 2-year period. And what my dad has watched unfold has happened over a minimum of 77 years of this. And as much as I believe that the truth about the history of this Israel-Palestine conflict is slowly coming out, I feel we're not there yet, because I feel like we're still going backwards. It's 1 step forward and 5 steps back still. And that's, for me personally, being sort of 40 years younger than my father, is the frustration and rage I feel every day. Is that why are we in a worse position now?
Yeah, very good.
Antoine, does it feel that way for you? I'm curious, as a Palestinian, and you were exiled during the Nakba of 1948. Does it feel that way for you now, with the extremity of what we are experiencing live streamed? Does it feel like we are taking 5 steps back, kind of 2 steps forward to you? How is that experience for you in the last couple of years?
Excuse me. I really believed that Zionism will end. I always believed that. What Yasmine is saying, it reflects the frustration, the arrogance, the banality of Zionism. They're getting worse. So yes, it is getting worse because they are in their last thread of the genocide that they have been carrying on since 1948. It has been quiet for the rest of the planet, but it has been incremental, little by little, and then the flood happened, and it really blew the top of all the argumentations they've been giving us, feeding us, that it will be resolved and it will be okay, and now they know that this is the implosion of Zionism. I really believe that. And the more vulnerable they become, the more ferocious they become. And that's natural. That's a natural reaction for criminals and war criminals to really kick and jump and scream and all the stuff as Netanyahu does. But that to me is not a revelation. It's a relief that I know this is the end of it, just like South Africa was. Exactly like South Africa. There's no difference except with the ferocity of the Zionists, really the criminality. White South Africans did horrible things. Americans did horrible things to the Indians. But this one, in modern day technology, you can see it almost live streamed for you.
And we talk about it often, Megan, like that they're really exposing themselves, right? As the saying goes, as we've been repeating endlessly, every accusation is a confession. It could not be more true of every day. And every time I get frustrated, I get angry because they want us to. This is exactly their MO. This is to get us angry and revengeful and ferocious in our kind of revenge to speak out against this. And my dad says, but that's what they want. They want that. They want to instill that reaction in you every time. Don't let them get to you, because that means they're winning. But actually they're just simply exposing themselves.
Before we go on, I'd so appreciate you to hit follow or subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, click those 3 little dots next to settings to rate the show. On Apple Podcasts, you can leave a review or take a moment to explore how you can rate or review on the platform that you're listening or watching. This makes a difference. I truly believe we need to have more of these conversations to shake up the status quo. We'll beat the algorithm together with your clicks and shares. Now back to the episode.
One of your dear friends, Antoine Raffoul, the Israeli historian who we were very fortunate to listen to speaking the other week, he says that Zionism is entering its final and critical stage. Is that something that you feel like we are witnessing right now, the final stage of Zionism?
It's exactly what I feel. And we've discussed this over 10 years ago with Ilan, and he volunteered that at that time. The fact that people didn't believe that then, because they looked at this incredible force called the Zionist lobby that controls many agencies in America and in Europe. Of course, it started here and went across the Atlantic to America, as he says in his fantastic book, Lobbying for Zionism. And people thought, no way, it's going to collapse. It's too powerful. It's too huge, too embedded in all the seats of power across the Western world for it to collapse. But in the end, empires collapse slowly, but when they really tumble down, it happens very quickly. I'm not saying this. It's history, and history is the greatest lesson for everybody, including politicians. They should learn from history. It's open for them to see it. And it really frustrates me that it's going on for 48 years. And I must admit also, I'm frustrated with the people. I love what they are doing today. The last 2 years, millions of them. And they came out because they saw babies being killed, mothers being killed. But this has been going on for 77 years, since 1948. It's slow. People went about their work, daily work, and it's behind the scenes thing. While we Palestinians know it, even in the diaspora, we know it. People inside Palestine, they see it every day. So it's a piece of news on BBC, on CNN, all the stuff. And then suddenly it exploded in October 7, 2023. And we started seeing actual people dying on the screen 24 hours a day. And it woke millions of people around. It hasn't woken the politicians, mind you. They really give lip service to all these tragedies, lip service. But they will have their day in history. They will have judgment coming. They definitely will.
Absolutely. And I think you raised such an important point that the Palestinian struggle has been going on for decades, and this has been happening behind the scenes. But what social media has facilitated during this time is the truth coming out over the last 2 years. And for those of us that have allowed ourselves to be totally rocked to the core by what we have seen and allowed ourselves to continue to be rocked every day, exactly as you said, it's blown the lid off all of this, because the Zionist project has been going on for decades and decades. In the video, in the interview that you did, Yasmine, with your father, you talked about it from the 19th, 20th century, this has been, the seeds have been sown and the power has been centered to so many different places. If you look at our institutions, our media, our politicians, the arms trade, what Palestine has really done. You know, Antoine, you named it as the moral litmus test of our generation and our times, which I think is Angela Davis. I think I always get that wrong, but it's really just blown the lid off all of this for so many people. And it's made it impossible to put that back into the box. So it's really just shown the truth of the systems by many of our lives. I just wanted to go back, Antoine, because not everybody that's listening will be familiar with your story. And I would just like to invite you to share a little bit about your story, because I know from Yasmine about your life, about you growing up in Palestine and being exiled during the Nakba. I know how difficult it is to try to put your entire life into about 5 minutes, especially one that was yours. But just for context for this conversation, if you could just fill us in a little bit on your story, that would be wonderful.
It's strange that the events that led to 48, the expulsion of the Palestinians. I was 7 when I was expelled with my family. One of 9 people who were expelled on the back of a truck from Haifa, heading north. And the few years before that, I was a happy child. We had a fantastic family life. We were middle-class families, typical of Haifa families, were typical of most Palestinians. They were really well-off people, happy people. And as a child, the only thing that I was aware of when we were left Haifa, when we were expelled on a truck, is seeing the Haganah soldiers on the sides of the road leading up to the Nakura border point of Lebanon with guns waiting, ensuring that we are heading north and we don't come back. And I was happy sitting on a truck. Can you imagine this child sitting on a truck going on a trip? Of course, my parents were aware of more things. Of course, they were preparing for that because the Agun and the Haganah people, the Carmelite brigades came into Haifa just soon after we left. But when we left, one day after we left, the Daryan Yassin massacre took place. And that really shook Palestinian society. They said, this is an indicator of what is coming. When people like Begin and Shamir, they became prime ministers, they were the perpetrators of that massacre. They killed innocent people. So that was really an event, almost within Palestine, is a global event for them. So people ran away in fear. Not only were expelled, but they ran away in fear because they were fearing for their lives. When we went to Tripoli, I was a happy child then. My father spoke very little about that. He didn't want to have the tragedy as a burden on us later. And I think it's what I do to Yasmine. My father wanted me to find out about it. I never actually spoon-fed Yasmine with anything. I was absolutely surprised. And every day of the last 2 years, I'm surprised that she is digging and she is searching and she is finding out the truth and all this stuff. And we were the same. And my father, for 6 of his children, wanted them to prepare themselves to be citizens of the world rather than refugees of the world. He never wanted us to be refugees. And he said, we'll take you to school, universities. And that's what happened. All 7 of us, we went to higher education. We became engineers, architect, I'm an architect, and so forth. So it was to answer your question, it was a happy life for us. And we left our home fully furnished for the Zionists to take over. Actually, Palestine was a fully furnished country for those invaders. They didn't have to buy anything. Palestinians left with very minimum, thinking they will be back. And then a few weeks later, after we crossed the border into Lebanon, the lie was exposed. They closed the borders, and we never went back after that. Only my father went back, because when we left, we took very little basic things. But he went back immediately to get all the documents of the house, the key of the house, and basic things. He was a photographer, and he took a huge collection of his photography, glass negatives and all that stuff, all the documents of the house, the deeds and everything. Luckily, he managed to go into the house, get those things, carry them, and came back, and I inherited them. I have them all in my house. So it's another book I have to write about that.
Sounds like you're going to be busy with all the books that you need to write for all of us.
I have been for the last 5 digging through them.
Totally. And of course, that's the significance. I didn't know this up until the last 2 years. And of course, there was so much that I didn't know through the education, through the lack of education that I, as a British citizen, didn't learn about. But the keys are so significant. I was always like, what are the keys? What's the symbolism of the keys? But of course, the right of return, because exactly as you said, Antoine, when people were invited to come and live in Israel, when Jews were given citizenship of Israel, they were given a home, which is, of course, a Palestinian home, and the keys being the right to return. And I saw that you still have the key, right, to your home, like so many Palestinians. So significant.
I have 2 keys. The keys to my house, thank God. It's a huge, heavy thing. Jesus, it's half a ton. No. And I have another key. And another key. It's funny that all the keys in Palestine that you see in pictures and interviews look the same.
I knew you would say that.
Rusty keys. And
even the one, Megan, in Palestine House, the one that's suspended from the ceiling in Palestine, looks exactly like the bigger sort of replica of my dad's key.
And the other key I have, very interesting story. Back in London, 10 years or so ago, I met an Israeli theater producer, director, very much Palestine. I don't want to say pro, and she was a human being. It's absolutely human. And during the intermission break, we met and all this stuff. And she pulled out a key from her purse. And it's similar to my father's key, to my house key. And she said, Antoine, this is the key that I have in the apartment that I live. And I feel very guilty because I found out that this apartment or house is not mine. It's a Palestinian one. Try and find out who it belongs to and give it to him for me, like that. Of course, I cannot go back to Palestine. I will not be allowed. Being me, they will check me out and kick me out. But I have the key, and I really will make it, hopefully soon, if Palestine is liberated, 1 state, 2 state, we will talk about that if you wish. But we will be able to go with decency, with humility, and proud that there is a state that accepts everybody equally. And I will look for that person, or his descendants, and give him that key. Our house is gone. I would probably try and rebuild it where it was built, where it was existing. But it's a mission. It's a mission for every Palestinian. They don't have it just as a symbol. It's a fact, really. It's not a symbol anymore. Yeah.
May that day come, and may it come soon. Yasmine, I just want to jump to you, because your father was saying that he never tried to spoon feed you all of this history and this information in the way that his father also chose to be with him. What was it like? I know that during your teens, you started to feel more of a pull to understand your heritage and the history of Palestine. Can you speak a little bit about that? What was the catalyst of that? Or did it just feel like something, was it just an inner feeling? Or what was it like, that experience of you uncovering all of this history for yourself?
I'm still asking myself the same question, to be honest, because it's only when my dad started speaking about that fact after he's witnessed my activism over the last 2 years and said, I didn't instigate this. And I was like, where else did I get it from, Dad? I'm half Palestinian. My heritage is important to me. It always has been, from both sides, because my mother is German. She's suffered a lot of trauma in her life as well. And it's important to note that. So I think from both sides, and I think I've always been very passionate about telling the history of my family story is very important to me because it's part of my identity. Right. But it's hard to really pinpoint when it all came to the surface, because I guess like going on my first protest and I can't even remember, I think it was in 2001 we gathered, 2002. Yeah. Anyway, I was at university, and I think it all started in the latter years of my teenage years, just because all the events of the world were happening. And obviously I knew about the Israel-Palestine conflict, obviously having learned about my family history. But I think the pinpoint for me was basing my final degree project, because I studied graphic design at university, on Palestine, but deliberately, or maybe not deliberately, basing it on the homeland, as in Palestine, a homeland, deliberately not speaking about the politics or any other sort of area of the conflict. It was more just celebrating my heritage and celebrating my identity and my family's identity, and telling the story through the rich culture of Palestine and the history of Palestine. And it's funny how I always talk about this now. If I was at university now and doing that project now, would I have been allowed to even do that project? Would my tutors have sat me down and go, Yasmine, I think given the sensitivity of the topic and it's a little bit too political for a final project for your university degree, maybe let's look at something else. Yeah. Because what I produced in the end is a book that I created, which was to challenge and refute the statements made by the Israeli Prime Minister in 1967, Golda Meir, who said that there is no such thing as a Palestinian people and that they never existed. So rather than turn it into a political piece, I created a book which contained quotes of members of our family, particularly my dad's brothers and sister who all were expelled in 1948, Palestinian friends of ours, Palestinian poetry, the music, photographs of, there's all the evidence you need, right? If I've got evidence of photographs of my entire family spanning 3 generations, essentially, what evidence, and the Palestinian ID documents that were from your grandfather. Yeah. And it was a beautiful piece, but at the time, I don't think I realized the significance of that piece. And how could I have ever predicted 20 years later, Megan, that what we have seen and witnessed and bear witness to for the last 2 years, right? It's crazy when I think about that, because that was just a small period of my life. And I got some people asking questions, some people on my course, but then university finishes and we never speak about it again. That project is never spoken about again. I keep it and my dad continues to show it over the next 20 years. Oh, I think you took it to Italy, because my dad lives in Italy now. I think you took it to Italy. And I said, no, bring it back. It's my prize, my possession. But to show it to everyone. But it never held so much significance until bringing it back now. But I feel that for me was the pinpoint. But then everything was brushed under the rug again until the next events happened in Palestine. And we then went on another protest, another march. But these were just isolated incidents, weren't they, Dad? It was never connected. Yeah. Nobody could. Yeah. Hence why, like you just said, Megan, October 7th happened. And then suddenly many of you went, hang on a minute, this has been going longer. This is wrong, what is happening to the Palestinians. But how come this event didn't happen, people's reaction to it didn't happen over the last 20 years of all of the history of events that have happened in the Middle East? Yeah.
Do either of you have feelings about why now? Like exactly what you said, Yasmine, of why didn't this outrage happen 20 years ago? Why didn't it happen 50 years ago? Why do you think it is now? Do you think it is just exclusively social media, that there has been no hiding it? Or what do you both believe around that?
Well, it'd be interesting to hear your opinion, Dad. But for me, it is 2 words: social media. without a shadow of a doubt. And the plethora of information there is out there to, at the click of your finger, is just to go and, but also for me, it is people's willingness to do the research. Go out there. You have a duty. Go out there. You've got all the information at your fingertips. Go look for it. How about you challenge what you're listening to right now or what you're watching on social media? Yes, fantastic. Social media is a fantastic resource, but also there's a lot of lies out there. There's misinformation, and you don't know what to believe. So I think it's the onus is on the individual to do the research, to find out, to listen to the Palestinian voices. But for me personally, judging by what I am seeing from my generation, from you guys, from my friendship group, my wider friendship group, from the Palestinian solidarity movement, social media has been absolutely fundamental in raising awareness of the Palestinian cause. But Dad might have a slightly different take.
Yeah. I think in very incremental fashion, it had been happening before, but we were on the receiving end of it. Take, for example, Gaza. Since 2005, it had been the subject of 23 bombardments by Israel. Kastled is the most famous of them. So they were always on the receiving end. It's in reverse. And then in the end, they said, enough is enough. We are going to answer to this. They are going to answer to this. And we've had enough. And suddenly there was the prison break. That's what I call it. We've been suffocated in 360 square kilometers of space, 2.3 million people. In one space, no matter who you are on this planet, you will revolt. You can't. It doesn't have to be Palestinians to do that. You will revolt in the end. So it happened because they were suffocated, finally suffocated. And they punctured that wall. And they said, enough is enough. Like any people on this planet, it's not special for the Palestinians. It's special for the Palestinians because of Israel. They have been covering it up for so long and managing to do this. If it had been another conflict, you would have heard about it when it started. But they have been covering it up. And the Palestinians said, enough is enough. And social media happened to be there to expose it. And let's remember one little detail on this. When the Palestinians revolted this time, they revolted not in the occupied Israeli proper, called Israel. I don't want to even call it Israel, but it was in a zone that was occupied since the armistice agreement of 49. They signed and dealt with it. From that agreement until 67, Israel occupied more of that zone. And the Palestinians revolted and attacked that zone. They didn't go into the Israeli proper, as called. Yeah. And they were all settlements there. They revolted and attacked Zionist settlements, which replaced Palestinian villages. So if you put it in that context, you say, what's wrong with that? They are going back to their origins. These people want to liberate their land. They're not attacking such hegemony like Israel. They are reclaiming their land. Yeah. And it happened at the time, as Yasmine said, social media, and they were exposed. Even with social media, the Hasbara of the Zionist lobby will try to cover it up. They will try. And they issue statements or videos or things to occupy you, to tell you, hey, can you respond to that? Of course, I don't want to respond to that. That's one of the questions you ask. Do you talk to Zionists? Yeah. They want to waste your time. But that's another question. But it happened at the time because I've had enough. Wouldn't you explode in your life against your husband, your partner, your children? You take, in the end, enough is enough. Rabin, the most peaceful Nobel Peace Prize winner, he was a criminal. Many people think he is a peaceful man. Maybe he pretended to be peaceful, but he was the one who issued the order in the first intifada. That's the first probably indication of the flood of 2 years ago. The first intifada, in 87. And he went and broke the bones of children who were throwing stones. He instructed his soldiers to go break the bones so that they cannot throw stones. Break the bones so they cannot throw stones. And they were breaking. There were TV. I have quite a few of them caught on camera when the press were allowed in the occupied territories. Now you won't see it, but thanks to the courageous journalists today, and they have exposed it to the world. And it's now up to the politicians to decide. Whether they decide or not, the people have decided, and they cannot escape that now. Yeah.
Totally. And I think, what you've just shared there, it really, it just cements this idea that it almost at the moment, like the world is on its head, and everything that we thought to be true is actually questionable or false, and everything that we thought to be false is actually a mirror of the truth. And it seems like we're really in this place of just rediscovering the truth, which then illuminates the truths that we haven't known for centuries about the impacts and the harm of and destruction of colonization. And Yasmine, something that you said about your project that you did as a student, about your dissertation, and you said that probably if that were now, you wouldn't be allowed to do it, which is unbelievable. In our kind of concept of linear time, we always feel like we're progressing, but actually in many ways, we're actually regressing. With that in mind, what I hear is we've been in this place for so long, Palestinians have been in a place for so long of being erased and being silenced, or the attempt for Palestinians to be erased and silenced. And just a question for you, Antoine, because it makes me feel so angry and saddened to understand that has been happening to any other humans. But I'm not a Palestinian. I'm curious how that is for you as a Palestinian, for you to have had your life experience, your lived experience, and your very identity attempt to be erased for so long, for that experience, but then also what we're coming into now is the illumination of that experience, and people wearing kefirs in the street, and people waving the flag, and people wearing watermelon symbols. We're veering to this place of it being an attempt for it to not be erased and silenced. But I'm curious how that has been for you during your life, your experience of this erasure and silencing, and our kind of shift to where we are now.
Good question. It has been frustrating because up till recent times, I was, as an architect, I was working in professional mode, but I also was active. And as an architect, I was active in architectural heritage in Palestine to save it. But looking around, I said, why are these people not listening? Why are they not reacting not as half as I would feel? Yeah. Why is it so normal to hear day after day a village was ethnically cleansed, or houses demolished, tractors were hitting everybody, even foreign students were going there being killed as well, in many famous incidents have happened at the time. It's a piece of news and then it's covered up and it goes on. That was frustrating for me, because I always said, why aren't they waking up? But I was busy also with my architectural work and my architectural heritage preservation. And so I was, I was accomplishing something myself, while looking to see if others will also be involved. And in one of our campaigns on architecture, many architects didn't want to touch that stick. They said, let's not touch it. It's too hot for us. Yasmine said, we don't do that. We let it be. And that was more frustrating than the actual event for me. Yeah. Being a Nakba survivor for all these years. Every day I remember it. I live with it. And when I inherited my father's thing, it was evident. Yes, we did actually get ethnically cleansed. Here it is. Here's the evidence. And a friend went to see my house and it was demolished. And that's an evidence, yeah. And my colleagues are not responding to that. They don't. I don't want to blame them too much. Let me make this very clear. Because the Hasbara, as we said before, the Zionist lobbying machine is so powerful that it controlled the media that fed us with the information. It controlled it. Now, you can respond to that by saying, okay, it controlled it, but you have the right to research it as well. As Yasmine said, you actually dig in. At that time, up to the late 1990s, there were no computers, no social media. So people had to go to the library and read the news. It depends which news, CNN, BBC, blah, 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 Fox News. So you are taking bits and pieces. Now the explosion is there. Everybody, you cannot blame them. You cannot say, don't do that, because they have seen it. And it is amazing. The flood opened it up at the right time. If the flood happened maybe 20 years ago, as I said, 23 of them happened and they were massacred. Not to the same number, but numbers don't mean very much, yeah? And no, it wasn't there. The news wasn't there. It was a piece of news overnight and that's it. But now, thanks to social media run by the Zionists themselves, it's incredible for me that people have found ways. They are the newscasters.
Yeah.
The ordinary people are the newscasters now. We don't rely on the BBC or CNN or Fox or even NBC and all. We search and we expose and we launch it and people react to it. It's those people on the top. And they have a lot to answer to. They have a lot to answer to when the voting time comes. This is my feeling about it.
Absolutely. And social media, despite being owned by Zionist organizations and billionaire individuals, has facilitated the truth coming out, but also people connecting with and meeting each other. I met Yasmine on Instagram, and I've met so many. My husband used to joke about how many internet friends I had, but fortunately all my internet friends have become real life friends these days, which is great. And Antoine, I just wanted there's a couple of questions just from that I would love to dig into more. And the interview that Yasmine did with you spoke about this one state, two state solution. And we seem to be in that place of wondering what potentially to move forward into. And obviously that was a year ago, that conversation that the two of you had on YouTube. But we are now at a place where the UK government has recognised the state of Palestine, and many other countries are making moves or have made moves to do so. I'm curious how you feel about that as a Palestinian and your ideas for moving forward.
The recognition, you see, all throughout 48, from 48 till now, the evidence is there. In villages destroyed, farmlands taken over, illegal settlers doing it. What are they doing? They are actually trying to erase a fact that is there. So we are there. And there, excuse me, there's 7 million Palestinians. The evidence is there. You cannot get rid of it. It's not a hypothetical thing. People are there, sitting there. One state, two state. I always believed in historic Palestine. You can call it what you like. I always believed in historic Palestine. As it was the home of many races, many people, many religions, always there. As we speak today, there's 7 million Israelis there. Yeah. A lot of them imports. A lot of them imports. We had Jews in Palestine. And that was the best example for a one-state solution. Because the two-state solution meant a racist state and a Palestinian state. The Palestinian state is recognizing the fact that there are 7 million people living on their occupied land. Yeah. So it's a fact. You cannot deny that. So you say, let's recognize a Palestinian state. Yeah. What they are doing is they are recognizing that there is a people called Palestinians because they cannot define the borders of that state. Whether it's 48, whether it's 49, whether it's 67, whether it's Oslo, 1993, which one is it? Yeah. So they say, okay, let's throw this little bit of speck on the world and say, we recognize the Palestinian state. The other side, since the flood, they have been calling for a one-state solution, except it's only for Jews. A racist, fascist state only for Jews, which is okay. What do you do with the 7 million people living on that state? Because their state is also from the river to the sea. They coined that. We didn't coin it. We coined it later. So people accusing us by saying from the river to sea, Palestine will be free. The fact is, in historic Palestine, there are two peoples. Yeah. Unfortunately, the Zionists, some of them are illegal settlers, fascist criminals, war criminals, including Netanyahu. They want to make it only for them. I, Antoine Raffoul of Palestine, am happy to share all historic Palestine with them in a democratic state. One man, one vote. Guys, of course, I will be criminalizing all those war criminals. They cannot go scot-free. They cannot go. Netanyahu is the first, his defense minister is the second, indicted by the International Criminal Court. What I'm saying is that let's call a spade a spade. We are all here, 14 million of us, yes? A lot of them illegal, but that's fine. Let's have a one state with everybody in, including, and never forget, the refugees that left in 48. Those have to be returned to their land. And my friend Salman Abu Sitta, the historian of Palestine, had made calculations, studies, that when they return, there's room for them. There's room for everyone. And it's statistics. He knows what he's talking about. So don't tell me there is no room for this, there's not, we cannot, no, I'm telling you, and you have to answer me. I'm telling you, you can stay there and then establish a democratic system that will represent all of us. Are you saying the same thing, Netanyahu? No. Are you saying the same thing, Smotrich? No. Ben Gvir? No. They want a Zionist Jewish, it's not even Jewish. They want a fascist state because Jews are wonderful people. They have really, conflated Judaism with Zionism. And that has been going on for a long time, and they were pretty successful in it. I am saying, like in South Africa, we don't want fascists in that state. But they are there and they will be voted out. So there is a system establishing for the 14 million people, including the 2 million who are living inside Israel now, proper Israel, 2.5 million, 20% of the Israeli population. So to answer your question, they say one state, except it's a fascist one, exclusive. I say one state for everybody, for everybody. No problem. I have no problem with that. But bring my refugees back into it. And they're not far. They're in Gaza, they're in Lebanon, they're in Jordan, they're in Egypt. Bring them back. In the diaspora, living happily, maybe they don't want to come, but give them a choice.
Exactly.
Give them a choice.
And I think it's so significant for everybody to recognise that even the peace plans, as they're calling them, are not being made with consulting Palestinians. And actually, it's so important to ask Palestinians about the vision for moving forward. And within what you were just saying, Antoine, you were talking about this conflation of Zionism and anti-Semitism and how problematic that has been over the decades, but also within the last couple of years. Yasmine and I and all of our friends are in this continual conversations now and then of how to speak to certain comments that we get online, in person. I know that there have been times over the last couple of years where I've taken something to Yasmine and said, what do I say back to this type thing? And she has sent messages saying, my dad says, ... And Yasmine is brilliant at articulating so much in response to Zionist comments. But I would love to just ask you, Antoine, how you approach, how you deal with Zionist comments, whether that is in person over the decades, or how do you deal with that? Because I know that it is a challenge for so many people.
I didn't get the question proper. About Semitism, you're talking?
No, about Zionist comments.
Yeah, how do you approach conversations with Zionists?
Yeah, I dismiss them. I don't really take them at face value at all, because they are, like I said earlier, they are a diversion. They want to keep you busy. I have a video of an educational Zionist propaganda video, a secret video. And he was telling the crowds, it's important to throw Zionist quotations, argumentations at the others, because then they have to respond to that. And by responding to us, they are not actually busy with their just causes. Yeah, they are busy talking back and forth. That's why I said earlier, I won't talk to the Zionist, because I know he's wasting my time. Yeah, wasting my time. There's no argument. He's wasting my time. If Hassan Kanafani, one of the greatest literary people in Palestine, he was killed by Israel in Beirut. He was, 30 some years old. Young guy, fantastic guy. He was interviewed by an Australian TV in 1970. Yeah. And he was part of the PFLP, Palestine, oh my God, I forgot. PFLP is like the PLO, but a branch of the PLO, branch of it. And the announcer said to him, Mr. Kanafani, he was very famous, yeah, a young revolutionary, a writer. Why don't you talk to your enemy? Why don't you talk to them? And he said, talk about what? Talk. Talk about what? He repeated. Talk about anything. You mean to tell me to talk about the sword and the neck? They're holding the sword over my neck. And if I say something they don't like, they will kill me. That's the impression. And that is so profound. He gave up talking. He said, all they need to do is listen to me. We don't need to discuss. You discuss something when you know about it and the other person knows about it. But they don't want you to discuss a common subject. They want you to discuss their version of it, and you shut up. That's it. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm definitely going to take that on board. Thank you. Yasmine, I just wanted to turn to you now of how do you notice the, say, generational differences of the way that you and your dad are experiencing this time, the way that you are advocating at this time? Do you notice generational differences between you?
I do. And I think irrespective of my own personal connection, because actually I think it's just proven with our wider friendship group and the Palestinian movement overall, they're not all Palestinians, right? They don't have a personal connection to that, but yet we all feel on a visceral level, we feel how connected we are to Palestine, because this is it's a collective humanitarian issue here. I don't know how you can separate it from anything else you feel fighting for in terms of fighting against injustice in the world. It just doesn't compute in my head anyway. But in terms of the fight for injustice, and that's for all oppressed people in the world, Yeah, I think social media, again, plays such an integral part because of the access to information. The raising awareness of issues is much faster. It's so much quicker, which I think is fantastic, right? But the speed of information is also so quick that it can also become very overwhelming. And that is where people shut off and they shut themselves away. So, I can't deal with it. I can't deal with it. It's too much. I can't. They turn away because, as we understand it now, it's a privilege to be able to turn away from seeing images and videos of slaughtered and shredded children every day. And that people will, the number of excuses has tripled in terms of people saying, don't do politics. Don't watch the news. It affects my mental health. I don't really use social media for that purpose. But so I think, again, this is all coming from social media and our use of it and how we use it as individuals and for what purpose we use it. But I also think just we're speaking out more. Our generation, the generations below, which I have faith in, I hope, if we teach them that to stand up, because as Ta-Nehisi Coates said, and if you don't know who he is, I would certainly look him up and read his books. It is it's the moral obligation of any human being to speak up and speak out against injustice and oppression of people around the world. Full stop. Full stop. And I think these days will define us. These days will truly define us. And if you have a platform, which everyone does, and guess what? You have access to these platforms for free, regardless. Let's not talk about the fact that they are owned, as you said, by Zionist organizations. But the fact that you have the privilege to speak out, you have a voice, you use it. There really is no excuse. And the fact that it's 2025, and I hope that momentum is really picking up now, really picking up. And I expect it to double each year from now on.
Can I comment on that? Yeah, just briefly. Because I'm a Nakba survivor. I'm a Palestinian, born in 41, and now I'm 84. I look at Yasmine, whether she's my daughter or not. Yeah, I look at her, but because she is my daughter, she's there every hour of my life. And I say, I could have been that. Except I wasn't that because there was no social media. I was doing it on my own or with other refugees. But they were not disconnected. The information was not, it was the written, it was printed stuff. And you listen to the radio about events like this. Now it is so fierce, the information flow. I worry because the intensity of the tragedy hitting young people, not the elderly, we sit back and say, of course, we expected this, me and the others like me, my brothers. But the young people are suffering from what they see more than we have suffered because we have seen it slowly happening. Some events like Deir Yassin, I mentioned that, or the cast-led events happened. They were static. They were wonderful, crazy events. But now every day it's happening. And I really feel sorry for them that they have to go through it, not only see it, but share it and discuss it in meetings.
Yeah.
And perhaps that is hopefully resulting in action, faster progressive action than I ever achieved in 75 years of my life. But it's taking a toll on the young people. They have a better life to run. They don't have to witness this. They don't have to see their children in the image of the Gaza children. I blame the politicians and those who press the button. I blame them for doing this. Don't you tell me they have no right to demonstrate and express their views. They have every right.
Absolutely.
Because they are today's age. They are today's generation. They are the mothers and the fathers of the young people of Gaza. They have a direct link with them. You sit in your elite box pushing a button, and I have seen it in a milder way over 77 years. They are seeing all of that, triple the force in 2 years. And you are stopping them from demonstrating? Are you crazy? They have every right to express their views and to actually achieve the result. And I hope they will, and it will happen. And that's back to your question. Zionism will collapse from inside. They are saying it. They are saying it themselves. They are saying what we have been saying for 77 years. Eradicate this race. Completely erase it from the face of the earth. They are human animals. Let's go for Amalek and get rid of them. But you cannot get rid of this lady here next to me. She's a wild beast. They don't know what's coming. Anyway.
We're all wild beasts, aren't we, Megan?
No, in all seriousness, thank you for sharing that. Firstly, it's so powerful to hear that from you. And I really echo that statement. Yasmine and the hundreds, thousands, millions around the world like her of Palestinian descent, and also us non-Palestinians who cannot put this back in the box. We are not going anywhere.
Anywhere. No. Wonderful. Yeah.
Period. Right. I am conscious of the time. Yasmine, I know that you've got to run off in 5 minutes. So I just want to bring a question to you. I know that you have a 4-year-old daughter, Lana. I know that a conversation that you bring up often and within our friendship circle, within my wider friendship circles too, is this concern for the future generations. And I know that is such a big drive for so many mothers, so many women who aren't mothers. I myself, I don't have children. But how do you feel that has affected your relentless and fierce advocacy?
It's changed my life. It's changed my life. Having a child has changed my life. Becoming a mother has changed my identity. And the last 2 years has profoundly changed my life and shaped my friendships. I've had to let go a lot of things, people mainly, that don't serve me anymore. But I think my biggest kind of sadness comes from witnessing the silence of the motherhood community. It's like what we were saying earlier in terms of speaking out for Palestine. If we speak about, I remember Missan telling the story about some activists that he met, and they said, if you speak out against Ukraine, Congo, Sudan, and you shout about it, you risk nothing. But if you dare to whisper about Palestine, you lose everything. And for me as a mother, and I heard the most horrific story from a friend of mine, Samaya, who is the co-founder of the charity Children Not Numbers, which I currently fundraising for. And she told me a story today, which, I will try not to cry, but she hears stories every single day from the ground in Gaza about families that they support through providing aid and medical aid, humanitarian aid. And there was this story of this mother who is working as a therapist for them in one of their clinics in northern Gaza. And she had tried for 4 years to have a child, and she successfully had her young boy, and he was 5 months old. And when she was at work, both her husband and her son were bombed and they were killed. And for me to hear that story, of which is not an isolated case. I've heard it many times. And she has spent a lot of the last year posting images to her Instagram of the clothes that she buys for her deceased child, the images of the wonderful birthday party she would have put together. And how can I, as a mother, not empathize with her? And I speak not only, again, irrespective of my Palestinian connection, but as a mother who has endured myself pregnancy loss, 5 years to conceive my daughter, postnatal depression twice. You know what? Actually, it doesn't even matter if you have suffered adversity as a mother. how it is inconceivable to me that mothers around the world cannot see a Palestinian or see in their child a Palestinian child suffering what they're suffering, the acute malnutrition that is going on, the 300% increase in miscarriages that is happening. It's probably even more now. The mothers who are unable to feed their children, unable to breastfeed, over 21,000 children that have been slaughtered. At the end of the day, we all agree that over the last couple of years in particular, we have lost friends. We have lost work opportunities and this is speaking out for Palestine. We have lost accolades. We have lost educational opportunities, or I could go on. The list goes on. But you know what? Life goes on. Yeah. So what? Life goes on. You move on. And I'll be sad if I lost those opportunities. And even people who think about the money or whatever, they chase the money, they chase the fame. If I lose that, so what? But to lose my peace of mind, my dignity, my conscience, my self-respect, to lose that means losing my integrity. And I will never sacrifice that for as long as I live. Because when I look at my daughter, when I look at Lana, I see every Palestinian child. And I want every possible opportunity for my daughter, just like every Palestinian mother wants the same. Don't tell me that they don't. They would do anything for their children, as any of us parents would. And I think if I stay silent, as you know, silence is complicity. And if I remain silent, then what am I teaching Lana for remaining silent? And that's what I say to the future generations, is that you have such incredible power to speak up and speak out. Just educate yourself, raise awareness, speak for the future generations, because you are the future and we really depend on you.
Because Lana, when she grows up, as a final statement, when she grows up, I've seen many films like that, she will look at mom and dad and say, what did you do?
Exactly.
I was hearing, and they will have more information, means in the media, very followed.
Yeah.
What did you do in 2023? Did you do anything about that? And she's answering that now. You cannot pretend that you did something when you actually didn't do it.
Exactly.
So hopefully it will change very quickly. And back to your question, the implosion is happening. With the tragedy, the implosion is happening. I promise you. A great opportunity to talk about this.
Antoine, how is it for you having such a fierce advocate as a daughter?
A big problem.
Dicey.
Poor husband.
Oh.
No, I'm proud, but in a nutshell, I wish she would calm down. She would learn from the 2 years past that her emotions should be not cut in half, but actually diluted and pacified a little bit. Because her message goes whether you scream or whether you write profound things. And with social media, should help her calm down because it spreads. Don't worry about it. I would be frustrated. I should be the one frustrated, as I said before, because there was no social media in my days. And we were telling people, do you see that? What are you talking about? Bye-bye. And they pass you. But now, as she said, you cannot avoid it. Excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm learning slowly.
I don't know. I think the world needs more fierce, difficult women. So I'm here for it. Yasmine, I know that we're at time. I know that you've got to go. I just want to ask a final quick question to you. What is it like for you to be the daughter of a Palestinian? How does that feel for you?
Pride doesn't even begin to describe it. Everything I've learned. And again, I will speak for my mother as well. She has had a profound effect on my life, her history, their teachings. What can I say?
She was a refugee as well.
Yeah, she was exactly. And she's suffered displacement. But for both of them, what can I say? How lucky I am to be able to continue the story, literally to our earlier points. I'm passing on this story as I have done shared with you guys, I've shared with the world. Did I ever think I'd be the social media manager of my dad's Instagram account? But what a wonderful way of telling a story. How Lana does that for her Jiddo's story and the history of Palestine remains to be seen. But I look forward to that day. But it's only because we've continued this trajectory and we continue the line of the story.
Hopefully Lana's story will be a happy one.
I hope. Inshallah.
Yeah.
Inshallah. I know that in the interview that you did with your father spoke about strength and spoke about resilience and steadfastness. And we really do learn that from the Palestinians, don't we? This enduring struggle, this strength, the need for us to be strong at this time. And whilst we are continually cracking open, but also the hope that we learn from Palestinians as well. So I really just want to leave people with that this continual commitment to hope, to having the vision of a free Palestine and a free people everywhere, and the strength to keep going each day together. Anything else that you would want to add to just the final words in the conversation?
Free Palestine.
Yes. Free Palestine. Always and forever. We will not stop fighting.
Never. Each and every day. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you for having us, Megan.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. It's great to have you with me on this journey towards higher love for all. Our time is our greatest commodity and gift, so thanks for investing it in yourself and sharing it with me. Please do take a moment to rate and review the show, all of which enables more people to find me and for me to connect with more great guests each week for both yours and my enjoyment. All links, references and contact information is detailed too within the show notes. And I always love to hear your feedback, so feel free to hit me up on my Instagram at higherlove_with_Megan or via my website higher-love.com. Send your takeaways, and if you enjoyed this episode, please share or send on to someone else who would benefit. Until next time, big love.